Welcome, everyone, to our fireside chat presented by Arrowroot Family Office Wealth Management Forward, bringing together the real influencers and thought leaders in the accounting world, as well as trusted service providers and tech-enabled service providers, in the industry today. We're going to give everybody kind of a minute or two before we really hop in here. But I want to just take a second to thank everybody that's logging in, taking time out of their busy day, holiday shopping. If you're on the East Coast, getting through the weather potentially. And if you're on the West Coast, taking off time from your busy surfing schedule to be able to join us today. So, we can maybe just kind of, I can just introduce some folks, the folks that are going to be joining us today. And we're really, really excited for the team that we brought on for everybody to listen to. We've got Nick Holman, CFP and head of financial planning at Betterment. We've got Seth Feinberg, editor, manager, U.S. team lead of accountingweb.com. Jody Padar, the radical CPA. We've got Kevin Lazier, CFP and co-founder of Holistiplan. Andreas Mazabel, who is the head of advisor solutions at Trust and Will. And Donnie Shimamoto, CPA. Donnie has a lot of different designations: CPA, CITCP, CGC, CGMA, and managing director of Enterprise Technologies, LLC. Thank you all for joining. So I think we can just kick off here, starting with our first topic, which is future-facing advice in accounting and wealth management industries. So I think highlighting some of the problems that a lot of the accounting firms that are joining are facing, right? The problem and the solution are both the same thing. We're in a revolution of software. There's more competition, lower margin. There's not enough time after the longest tax season in history. There are a lot of issues that CPA firms are facing today, and we're hoping that we can be able to highlight some possible solutions for those folks that are coming in. Maybe just to start off, Jody, can you maybe talk to some of those problems and breaking down some of the services that traditional CPAs have been kind of using, and what are they doing to try to incorporate some of this more holistic, future-facing type of advice?
Sure. So just a little bit about me is I owned my own firm for 14 years, and we did wealth management as well as accounting services. We were a tech-driven firm, and we kind of pioneered new ways. Well, everyone talks about advisory, but what is advisory? And I don't think you can even get into holistic advisory without talking about how wealth management fits into the tax scene and the accounting scene as a whole. And I think it's been really hard because we're 2 years of a tax season, right? And we're coming again to tax season. So how do we stop? How do we get intentional about things we need to do to change? And I think what's interesting about it is that it's not going to change unless we change, right? So how are we going to get intentional about changing? And I think the cool thing is we're going to be talking about a lot of technologies today. And I think technology is the way, because what technology does is it's going to give you capacity to actually make those changes so you can actually look up to do something different. And I think we've all felt it, and we are our client's most trusted advisor, but how do we, I think, get intentional about figuring out how we're really serving them best as we move forward, in this new world that we're living in.
Yeah, makes total sense. And Donnie, as well, your practice is really focused to CPAs about how they can be able to elevate their thinking, their technology, and be able to not just abandon the things that they were doing in the future, but enhance it and adapt. Could you maybe talk about why you've positioned your practice around helping folks like that?
Sure. We recognize that there's really a need, and especially for small and mid-sized practices. So that's who we emphasize working with, is really working with like the practices that Jody had. And Jody is actually a previous client where we helped her back. It feels like it was a really long time ago, but it wasn't actually that long ago, fully move into the cloud and divorce from the desktop type of a thing. So, but Jody hit it right. It's really today, we're increasingly, it's not just about technology to do the work, but it's technology to really free up your time. Because if you're just in this rolling busy season and keeping going, and you're never taking the time to step away and say, what's actually happening? What's going on? Am I really looking at the bigger picture, not just for our firm, but also for our clients? And how can you keep up with everything if you're busy heads down just doing the work? So whether it's utilizing outsourcing or technology or a combination of the two, that's generally what we're trying to help people think through. Or what are my options? What makes the most sense for my firm so that I can have this capacity, so I can provide the better services to my clients?
Yeah, makes sense. And Seth, I would love to get your viewpoint. Accountingweb.com, highly committed to educating this community, highlighting the future. I know you got a conference that's coming out next year that we want everyone to go to. We're all going to be joining that as well. We're very, very excited about it. But could you maybe just spend a moment and talk about what you're seeing in the industry as far as the problem of where we are today as an accounting industry, and the path that you're seeing forward?
So where we are today, again, I don't mean to go on a down note, but Donnie and Jody, definitely sort of touched on it. The never-ending tax season. A lot of CPAs and enrolled agents, tax pros in general, calling it March-ternity. And while it kind of, it's kind of cute and a little pithy, the reality is we talk to practitioners regularly. Our entire commitment, as you mentioned, Rob, is to educate, and also to just try to inspire and give useful, practical information. Jody and Donnie have been here. They've written for us. They're committed to the profession as well. And so on the downside of things is, more than in the 20 years that I've been covering the profession, nearly 20 years, it's twofold. One is technology has never been more prevalent, but at the same time, I haven't talked to as many CPAs who literally just are thinking of getting out of the profession. They feel run down. They're literally tired, burnt out, trying to deal with the IRS, dealing with clients who are potentially losing their businesses, losing their money, losing their wealth. And there's never been a better time to kind of really kind of hike up the boots and be like, okay, I have to find some more purpose here, and it has to get better somehow. And I feel that with technology that's available today, and with proper direction, proper focus, I think the CPAs and accountants in general are very well positioned to really kind of affect positive change, both in their practices and in the lives of their clients as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So I think we're all really familiar, especially those folks coming in on some of those challenges. And we always tell all the accounting firms that we work with is, don't swallow the ocean, just get started. And as you get started, that will start to snowball, getting a CRM, some of these other things. And we're here, and a lot of the partners are here to help you to start to take some of those steps. I want to transition into the next section, which is going to be some solutions that are available to folks. And we want to try to highlight some of those today. And so, the first one I want to start with is Kevin from Holistiplan. A lot of CPAs here have been trying to transition, or at least monetize, some of their tax advice, future-facing tax advice, and been very, very difficult to be able to do. So, Kevin, could you maybe just focus, or just kind of tell the folks out here, the solution that you guys are offering for some of that tax advisory work, how you're utilizing artificial intelligence, and how quick and easy it is to be able to implement some of that advice using a solution such as Holistoplan.
Sure, Rob. Yeah, and thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Yeah, Holistoplan was started. The premise is you are able to upload a client's tax return, take that 50, 75, 100-page document that has numbers everywhere, and clients don't know what they all mean, and demystify it. Turn it into a 2-3-page summary report, all in a matter of 60 seconds or less. You upload a PDF document and you get a client deliverable that not only summarizes the tax return itself, identifies MAGI thresholds you need to be aware of and all the planning opportunities around those, whether or not Medicare Part B and D premiums are going to increase, what their effective rate is, what brackets they're in for both ordinary income and for long-term capital gains. But then it also provides actual planning opportunities that the advisor, in this case, can review and look into further, or have the conversation right off the bat there with their client. So it's a great opportunity to streamline your practice. If you're providing that forward-looking planning opportunities, this is going to do a lot of that work for you with simple task of uploading the PDF document of that tax return that you prepared for the client.
Yeah, and we use Holistoplan. It was fantastic, especially for the tax season we just went through. So we got 2 questions all the time in the last tax season. One, what if the tax bill goes through? What is this going to be the effect of our taxes next year? And 2, what happens if I move out of New York or California and move to Florida? What is that going to do? And there are buttons for that on Holistoplan. You push a button and that tax analysis with your real tax return is returned to you within a minute and is deliverable for a client. So I know that could revolutionize a lot of people who are joining us today to utilize that service. Is there any other kind of common use things that you're seeing some CPAs and advisors use it for?
Well, yeah. When we first launched Holistoplan, the idea was it was an efficiency tool. Take tax planning that advisors were doing. We weren't even focused on the CPA market at first, because I'm a former advisor. My partner is an advisor. It was help advisors do tax planning faster. But what we've recognized now, particularly in the CPA market, is it's a business development tool as well, because now the tax preparers have potentially thousands of tax returns that they're preparing. And as you said earlier, they're making the shift or thinking about making the shift or adding wealth management to their services. Holistoplan is perfect for that, because now you can, after preparing that tax return, the thousands of tax returns, you can upload them. And in 60 seconds, you're going to get a tax report that identifies potential opportunities. Those opportunities, that report is going to give you, the CPA advisor, an opportunity to identify those tax prep clients that would benefit from your wealth management services. So it is a great way to turn potentially thousands of tax prep clients, figure out which ones would be best suited for your wealth management division, and provide that service to them.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And so, kind of transitioning over to Betterment, Nick, at Betterment, another wonderful solution that is today, it's focused on the advisor side. And as we see more accountants come over into the registered investment advisory side, either through a solicitor agreement, through an existing advisor, or becoming an RIA themselves, how have you guys really utilized this simple user interface to make the very complex easier for the client, both through direct to client, so just individuals, but I also want to, give you a time to talk about what you all are doing on the corporate 401k plan side, which we think is an enormous opportunity for accountants that are dealing with company owners that have corporate 401k plans.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Well, everyone here so far has talked about how crunched for time accountants are. And then I believe the specific words you used, Rob, were future-facing advice. And that's really what Betterment is all about. We created a whole new industry of digital investment advisors over a decade ago. And most people know us as a direct-to-retail offering. We actually have two other business lines that are we white label our technology for advisors who work. They use us behind the scenes. Clients don't even need to know that it's Betterment. And then we also, as Rob mentioned, we offer 401ks to small and mid-sized businesses. That's the target market, which probably fits along with a lot of the target 401k space that this audience is looking at here as well. And with CPAs and with other accountants, the thing that really attracts them to Betterment, and from the ones that I've spoken with, is at our core, we are super tax efficient. That's baked into a lot of the offerings that we have. Things that CPAs know the value of, but just aren't really scalable. Things like when a client makes a withdrawal, automatic tax slot identification to minimize tax burden. You don't have to worry about that. It happens automatically. 3-click Roth IRA conversions on the platform, done. Automatic asset location, completed. All of these things, we didn't invent them. Like the firms I've been at before Betterment, we were doing these things too. We just charged an arm and a leg for it, and it was very manual. So we've taken those practices, similar to Arrowroot, taking some of the family office type of advice and trying to spread that. That's really what our bread and butter is as well.
I will tell you that for those accountants on here that have helped to advise their clients around corporate 401k plugins, there's all kinds of problems. The payroll updating, the compliance testing, the support functions, and that takes a tremendous amount of work if you're trying to be able to offer that solution. And Betterment has completely lifted that. Also has direct APIs into those payroll providers. No more payroll processing. It's all automatic and done beautifully. And all of our clients have been super, super happy with it. And again, this is another service offering that accounts can be able to incorporate into their practice that can start to, one, be able to better service their client, but two, either through a solicitor's agreement or interaction with an advisor or becoming an RIA, can provide a recurring revenue stream with lower amount of manual labor and time that CPAs can then be able to, depend on, instead of more compliance work, more time, more time. This is a very efficient plug and play type of solution that can help everyone. I want to shift over to Andreas at Trust and Will. On the wealth management side, and I'm sure on the CPA side, one thing that is always terrifying for all of us is how many times we come across clients that don't have an adequate trust or will or estate plan set up, or it's not updated. And so we've been utilizing Trust and Will as a very reasonably cost, user-friendly type of solution to help those clients. And we're seeing ourselves as advisors and a lot of CPAs adding that added value add service of getting their clients taken care of on the estate plan and incorporating that into their business model. Can you maybe just talk about the origins of Trust and Will and where you're seeing your adoption for your client base and for advisors, CPAs, other types of advisors that are utilizing your service?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Thanks again for having me. The origin is really around the problem and the fact that about 60% of families don't do any estate planning. They find the process to be very expensive. There's a big lack of education in the industry where most families don't know what a trust is or what a will is, what the difference is. So that's really where we started about 4 years ago. And what we've seen since we started the company, we've helped about 300,000 families so far. But on the latter part, we're actually helping advisors, and as you mentioned, CPAs as well, really look at adding more value. And that really comes from, it's not just the investment management, or it's not just the tax planning, but really holistically in providing peace of mind. But really at the end of the day is providing a client with another resource for estate planning. And the impact that we continue and the feedback that we get is that clients are actually getting it done, because we believe that most families have fairly straightforward estate planning needs. So if I can find a solution that's quality documents, state specific, designed by attorneys, but it's not going to cost me $2,000 to $5,000 depending on the city and state, they're going to get it done. So at the end of the day, it's really just what are the resources, what's the value behind your offering that can help you as a firm attract more clients, because I really believe that's where the industry is going to continue to go, is as a consumer, I want one place where I can get most of my stuff done. I don't want to have 5 to 6 different points of contacts where no one communicates. So that's where we really, I believe, see the industry continue to go.
Yeah, no, and a common problem we were seeing with our client base is even if they're willing to pay that $2,000 to $5,000 for their estate plan, it was a big, lengthy paper document. They had to sit in an attorney's office with very awkward, morbid questions, and it never got done. And this trust and will, my trust and will is through trust and will. You can do on the sofa with your spouse or your partner. Get that done in a very user-friendly, at your own pace way, and very, very affordable. So thank you so much there. Shifting over to our team members on here right now from the accounting industry. Jody, can you maybe talk about some things that people are stubbing their toe in and trying to adopt some of this, and also marketing, the marketing problem that accounting folks are kind of running into. You are the best influencer out there, so I think would love to lob that over to you.
Well, sure. Well, first of all, like just listening to the solutions here are amazing, because everyone says be an advisor, but nobody knows where to start with advisory. And I think when you have tools like this, you have a starting point, and you already know all the technical stuff as the CPA. Now you have a deliverable. Now you have something that you can kind of tie it around and actually serve your clients. And then like you can understand advisory, because so many times as CPAs, we practice these random acts of advisory, right? Where we're giving away advice. We're not charging for it. We're not really monetizing it, really even helping our clients understand our value. And when you have products like this that can actually, you can tie it together with your advice, I mean, I think it makes all the difference in the world. So for those of you who are out there thinking about where do I start with advisory, I think looking at tools and products like this, it kind of gives you that starting point, right? Which is awesome. And these tools weren't around, so many years ago when I was in practice. So that's, that's kind of a bummer, but oh well. Anyways, as far as marketing goes, right? Like, I think the thing with marketing is, and this goes back to CPAs and kind of the viable business model that they really need to start thinking about, is that if you have really good marketing and you kind of get clients in, then you can raise your prices and you'll have capacity to serve your clients in a much better client experience, which is where like CPAs lose themselves, because they're so busy, they're so overworked. And part of it is their prices are too low. And the reason their prices are too low is because they say that they don't have any clients or they can't get clients. Well, the reason they can't get clients is because they don't have good marketing. So it just becomes a self-perpetuating like problem that if they raise their prices, give their clients a better experience, now they can really invest in marketing and really kind of help them deliver the advice that they want to deliver. Because CPAs, if you ask them, why are they in business? Most of them won't say to make money. They'll say, oh, because I love helping my clients. Well, the way you help your clients better is by like really being connected to them stronger. And the only way you're going to get connected to them stronger is to make sure you have capacity in your firm to do that. And then you can really, kind of delight in the advisory part that everybody's telling us to do, but most of us don't really know where to begin there.
Yeah. And I'll throw it over to Seth. Seth, what are the, utilizing this new age, this revolution of software and artificial intelligence, where are you seeing CPA firms stub their toe? Similar to the question to Jody.
Realistically, Rob, it's getting started. I mean, Jody kind of touched on it, but it's really just knowing what, because there's so much. I don't know if any of you have been to in your basic accounting application app store, whatever platform that you happen to be on. It's kind of a nightmare. I mean, there's so much out there, and everyone here notwithstanding, I mean, these sound like really, really great tools. Getting into wealth management, and wealth advisory. So I think it's just kind of getting out of the gate, really knowing, and to Jody's point too, the advisory message has been around almost as long as go to the cloud. Cloud isn't a destination; it's where stuff happens. But it's the same thing too. Advisory, shouldn't be a destination. You gotta be very kind of mission specific, mission critical. And I think, as a CPA, you're already in the financials. So your next step with an individual client, whether you're, is to start talking about these things, start talking about estate planning, having those tools at the ready. But yeah, back to your point about the stumbling block, the stubbing your toe. It's really just, it's that thing that sits right at your door that you're afraid of tripping over. Just the door jam there. You're just the door jam is really just knowing which direction to kind of go, because it is pretty overwhelming out there. So while we have a wealth of tools, it's just really knowing where to get started. Now I hear that more often than anything else.
Yeah, and Donnie, the accounting firms that you're working with, there are other things outside of just becoming an advisory focused type of firm. There's cybersecurity that's out there, which is, we are obviously dealing with very sensitive documents, sensitive information. Could you just talk about some of those common issues that you're helping other accountants out there to be able to solve?
Yeah, what you're saying really is the balancing point. So I describe what I do as two-sided. One is the innovation, which involves technology, and I'm grateful. I mean, my firm does what essentially AF Hill has done through this, which is figuring out which are the right vendors to work with. We've already vetted them. We figured that out. That drives that innovation side. That can help you get over that stubbing your toe that says, because I'll be like, here, let us help you step through the doorway and figure out which ones. To kind of balance that out, though, the other side is the cybersecurity and the risk. So we help people really kind of look and balance the two. Well, you want to be more innovative. If you're going to be more innovative, what do you need to do on the other side to balance any risk that's occurring there? And I think that also ties into kind of the bigger picture. The other thing that I think firms often forget about is to look at where do they want to be. So, for example, when we start off our engagements, we always ask people, well, where do you want to be 2 to 3 years from now? Not just next year, but tell me where you want to be 2 to 3 years from now. Because if this is where you want to be 2 to 3 years from now, I want to make sure that all of the software that you're using and even thinking about using is going to align you toward this path rather than taking you up this way and then you got to redirect to come back down. So understanding what the path of the firm is and what the vision for the firm is, I think is really important. And then I mentioned innovation actually has two sides to it. So, looking, I think, at what kind of Andreas and Jody was saying, both of them talked about, bringing the innovations in and looking at marketing. And a lot of that comes to growth. But I think sometimes I talk to practitioners that are like, I don't need to grow. I'm happy with the income that I'm having. I just don't want busy season to be crazy. I don't want it to be this 2-year, busy season. And so the advice I provide to them is usually, well, one, get some automation in to free up your time, maybe make yourself and your staff a little less crazy during busy season. But in listening to Andreas and Jody, the part of it too is, well, figure out what additional services you can provide to that client that you already have that perhaps is more advisory, has a higher realization, which will actually let you get rid of some of those clients you don't want to have and that are not as profitable for you. And you still get this peace of mind and balancing of your workload without having to go and do growth and all the stresses that come with that.
Yeah. And I appreciate all of those comments. And, we always tell people, reiterate, just get started, but also focus on the lowest hanging fruit, right? We don't have to incorporate all of these other things. And what we run into a lot with the new CPAs that we're working with, the lowest hanging fruit might be some tax advisory software like a Holistic Plan, but certainly on the 401k side, lots of CPAs are doing, and on the SEP IRA every year, talking to people about how to fund their SEP IRA, fund your traditional IRA, max out your 401k, start a 401k. And a lot of accountants have shied away from that because of compliance, because of that issue. So Nick, could you talk about how you solve that compliance issue for the advisors, both on the direct client side, but also on the corporate 401k side?
Yeah, from a compliance standpoint, I wish that we had someone from our Betterment for Business line here instead of me, but we can take a lot of the fiduciary requirements off of the CPA. Of course, you're still going to have some of that, but from an automation standpoint and from a compliance standpoint, a lot of that is baked into our software as well. I wish that I could talk more intelligently about that. I know that's one of the things that our prospects come to us looking for, because they're trying to get into the space of advising on 401ks, but they just don't know where to start. And on that note too, like what Seth mentioned, if you're trying to expand, your revenue streams, I wouldn't recommend adding Betterment and Trust and Will at the same time. If you want to start with Trust and Will, great, do that. It just comes down to, we're coming up at the end of the year here. Betterment is doing our own internal planning for 2022. There's too many good ideas is the problem that we have. There's too many spaces that we could expand into, and we have to narrow that down. And if you don't do a good job of that, like saying no is harder. And if you don't do a good job of that, then you're just going to have busy season all year round, basically, which is a recurring trend from what I'm hearing. So,
yeah, and I can talk to your compliance component on Betterment for Business, because we are happy.
Thanks for picking up my slack.
We are happy users here, and the short answer is it is plug and play easy. So again, we've talked to that point of lowest hanging fruit. Almost every CPA I've talked to said we've got about 100 or 200 clients that own businesses that hate their 401k provider. And I won't name any of the ones that they hate, but you all know them. And it takes a ton of time, and we're not getting paid very well for it. And so this is a solution, again, that can provide recurring, growing revenue, and also provide that tax advisory to the business owner. So you are tied into that 401k, advising them from a business owner's perspective of how to be able to structure that. And the compliance work really falls to Betterment. Andreas, another concern, people saying we're going to do a Trust and Will online. Oh my gosh, everyone's going to have all of my information. Could you maybe talk about, the lawyers, the compliance, and all of that effort that you guys have done to make sure that what you guys are providing is compliant in all the states that you work in and with the clients that you're servicing?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. So a couple things. One is we have attorneys in-house that are drafting state-specific documents, and we audit the documents state-specific twice a year. So give you an example, state of New York, June of this year, they had an update to their power of attorney form. So we're very forward-thinking and proactive when it comes to actually ensuring that we need to make updates to our documents whenever there's a change. And then two, from an actual compliance perspective, we're actually the first ever online estate planning platform that received SOC 2 compliance approval. So really providing and delivering the highest level of encryption and security in our documents, so that when someone is creating their documents, they feel, one, the peace of mind that they're creating their documents, and two, that their documents and data are secure on the cloud when they're actually creating it on the platform as well. And one thing I want to add really quick, Rob, Donnie talked a little bit about, if a CPA says, I'm totally good with the number of clients that I'm serving. But we also have on the advisor side, the newer businesses that are really looking at growing their practice. We're seeing that advisors and CPAs can actually, by implementing estate planning, I can now, for example, have a family meeting. I can review the documents with my CPA or my advisor and really look who else is named in the estate plan, right? Like, think of the peace of mind that if your client knows that their loved ones know who your financial advisor is, who your CPA is, and you can now build this community in a way that connects your professionals with the people named in your estate plan. And so that if you know, hey, if something, not if, when something happens to me, I know that I'm providing a plan and that my loved ones know who to reach out to and how to reach out to. It makes it really impactful. And then also too, this is specifically to advisors, but there's a fact, and this has been published numerous times, but 90% of the time when a family passes, those assets are leaving the firm. So how can we do a better job both on the CPA and the financial planning side for us to be more proactive in who else is named in the plan? Who else do I need to build a relationship with, right? So a couple things to just throw out there to think about, because those are some problems that we're facing that we really want to help solve.
Andreas, it's almost like you're reading my mind, because this is a perfect transition into our next topic, which is going to be about attracting, retaining talent, and diversity of talent, and diversity for these added service, broader services that people are being able to provide. We've all heard of the Great Resignation, right? Both on the CPA side and on the wealth management side. The fact remains, both industries are dying to try to get more talent to come in to service these markets. Obviously all the software sees those market trends going as well and wants to get adoption of those things going on. But, Seth, maybe we can start with you, some thoughts around demographics. Demographics are clearly changing in this world, and there is this thought of the Great Resignation, which we've been hearing about for decades, yet to totally see come to fruition. What are your thoughts there?
So in the profession right now, and there are greater resources than us out there that will back this up. The CPA profession, like a lot of professional service industries, there is an aging out that is happening. I would say literally within the next 5 years, you're going to have the boomers, et cetera, who started firms, who made their way, through, partnership and the like, even at the small firm level, are going to be moving on if they haven't already. So that leaves more like my generation and millennials, or even younger. And, folks are expecting a different kind of work environment in the profession. We've been hearing it for some time. And there's been a lot of talk, but not a whole heck of a lot being done. And you're seeing, just even within the accounting profession, which I can speak mostly to, is the fact that, the numbers are showing that there's as I mentioned earlier, over the last couple of years too, a lot of folks just wanting to just kind of pack it in general. But there haven't been a lot of new CPAs, new accountants coming into the profession at all, and the profession has had to look outside of itself for new talent and retaining talent. So there's a whole lot to unpack, Rob. That is, just much like with technology in general, you have to kind of pick a path. You have to really decide the kind of firm you want to be and what kind of future you want to have. To Donnie's point, I remember a time where it was the 10-year plan. Who here is talking about a 10-year plan anymore? You're going to be lucky if you can look out 2 to 3 years, because guess what? Things are going to probably change on you in that time anyways. 5-year plan, great. Good luck. Let's see if you get there. But look over the next 2 to 3 years and think of the kind of firm you want to be. what kind of talent is out there, both, from, just an actual look and feel of who you are. We're right now, statistically in the United States specifically, and the numbers back it up, we are actually in the most multicultural period in our lives in America's history. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but it's true. The numbers are there. They back it up. Why can't the profession reflect that in and of itself? And I'm not the one with all the answers, but the folks that we're talking to is you have to make a step. You have to be committed to being more diverse and to possibly, yeah, even looking at talent, and even the talent that's coming in out of the schools. You know, you have to make it attractive to be a CPA, to want to come into the profession. But again, lots to unpack there. Both from a cultural sensitivity point of view, to just really, why become a CPA, why become an accountant, why continue in this profession.
Yeah,
I think it has to start with a certain level of commitment.
that makes sense. And Donnie, you are on all kinds of boards. Again, we've got major thought leaders here. What are your thoughts about in regards to diversity, inclusion, in tandem with this Great Resignation? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, this is a really interesting problem, or maybe it's an opportunity, and Jody here, I know, has been in the same seat as me, which is we're often the only either woman or minority in the room, or in a lot of these national, international types of meetings. And so there's definitely a challenge there for the CPA part of the profession. But when I look at the broader picture of things, I really think I sometimes wonder whether this is actually a nuance of the older generation, and with the older generation finally deciding that they are going to exit, as Seth has said, whether it's somewhat going to solve itself. When you look at a lot of the new upcoming firm owners, we see a lot more women in there. We're starting to see, especially in the vendor side, we're seeing more of the minorities start to come up there. So that's part of me that kind of asked that question. But then the other side of me also, when I look at it from a family standpoint, I have friends that are first generation immigrants. It's a very different mindset there. And to connect with that mindset, you really need someone coming from, whether it's Vietnamese or any other your other types of minorities. And the thing to remember is that it's that connection at that ethnic level that opens up that market to you. And it's the type of thinking and what their family says, and knowing and using the right words to adjust it to resonate with the values from that culture. That I think is probably one of the biggest things. So as you start to look at that, again, I look at this as an opportunity in multiple ways. So one is open up in business growth. Second is all of the vendors here, like even middle-class families, need these services. And so with the vendors all helping to make this a lot more affordable, look for opportunities to really deliver this, even just to the middle class, not just the upper 10% of people. That's, I think, the huge opportunity in wealth management, is it's not just for the wealthy anymore.
Yeah. And Jody, kicking it over to you, something you've spoken about plenty out there, but would love to hear your thoughts on this issue.
I can't unmute myself yet. There I go. So, you think I would have learned after 2 years, right? No. So the funny thing about this is that I think actually technology is the solution. And the reason I think that is because technology levels the playing field. It completely levels the playing field, because when I started my firm years ago, it was the cloud that allowed me to work on my time anytime. So as a young mother, I had the ability to work when I could work. I didn't have to work 60 hours a week and have my butt in a seat on a Saturday doing tax returns, which unfortunately is still somewhat predictable for many firms, right? Like they have set Saturday hours, right? Which is crazy to me, right? So technology helps. It just levels the playing field. The other piece of it now too, like remote workers, you can hire people across the country. So that's adding to the great resignation, because guess what? If you're unhappy with your firm in New York, guess what? You can get hired by a firm in California and you'll get paid. And New York's having a hard time because they're hiring people in Tulsa for half the price, right? So it like opens, again, technology now has like opened the playing field for a lot more equality that people don't think about. So now wages can be a lot equal, or can be more equal, right? Women or people who can only work so many hours have the ability to work on their time, not necessarily on business hour time, right? And then I think, as Donnie said, as the old guys retire or stop working, the next generation of business owners has just a different mindset. They're a lot open. They grew up in a multicultural world, and I just think that they're just used to it. In fact, when I think about even sitting at the table in conversations or conference room, when I'm in a table with a lot of 30-year-old leaders, I do a lot better than when I'm with the boomers, because the 30-year-old leaders look at women very differently than boomer men do. So it's so funny that, you know, it's that obvious, but I think as just the demographic changes, you know, we're just going to be in a better spot. And I think we just have to be open to the fact that things are going to change and it's going to look different, right? Like it's almost like this pandemic, right? We're not going back. Like whatever we were in and wherever we're going are two completely different places. And I think that's the way we need to look at how firms are going to look in the future, how employees across the board, regardless of firms, like, I mean, even just in the general public, we're just going to be a different culture overall. And how do we embrace it? How do we take that opportunity that Donnie talked about to actually exploit it to our benefit and just become stronger businesses because of it?
Yeah. And you know, again, we started this talking about, you know, technology, revolutions of technology might be part of the problem that's driving down the margin that people are getting from their regular tax return. But software is also potentially the solution to grow a better recurring revenue base or a higher margin business and not work as hard. You know, over to you, Kevin. You know, the one thing I really love about Holistaplan is that older generations, younger generations, both love it. The older generation loves that they don't have to hire somebody out of college. They have to check their spreadsheets and manual and do all this other stuff, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful package and providing great advice. And the younger generation loves it because it's educating them. It's a tool that they can rely on. It's very easy to use, and also shows them this great opportunity and this advisor facing kind of mindset. Can you maybe talk about your experience in particular with advisors who you launched the product for, and how it's resonated in both that older and younger generation?
Yeah, sure. And I would say for both generations, neither want to enter data all day into software. So I think that's part of why it's resonating with everybody is we're taking that data entry off the advisor or the paraplanner or the CPAs or the assistants, whoever's entering that data, we're taking it off their plate. You're uploading a document and then all the data is read in from that document. So that's making everybody's life better. As far as you made a great point about how it's educational for the folks getting into the industry or that are newer to the tax planning side of things, the forward-looking projections and things like that. Lots of bigger firms are using Holistaplan as part of their onboarding process and part of their training. Because now, instead of having to sit with someone and read through a 1040 tax return with all the schedules and teach someone how to do a tax return review, they can say, load this into Holistaplan. It's going to give you a whole bunch of the numbers you need to know, and then the planning opportunities that we would be looking for together side by side. And then let's go ahead and upload 10 of them, and we can talk through them all in an hour instead of 10 hours of training. So the advisors that are managing and soon exiting the business are benefiting from that training aspect of it. And then the younger advisors and CPAs that are newer to the business get software to help teach them. And a lot of folks at that level also, they prefer software and prefer using software and getting their hands dirty and just trying things out and learning that way as well. So.
Yeah. And, again, I think, with all of our tech providers that we have on here, I think we have a similar theme in that. But, over to you, Nick, the older advisor, the younger advisor, the older CPA and the younger CPA, especially with the CPAs, when we talk to them about incorporating wealth management into their practice, they immediately say, I don't want to know how to be able to allocate or give any kind of that financial advice. That is, I don't want to have to learn how to be able to do that. And again, Betterment has invested a tremendous amount of capital around, I think, a very thoughtful process around risk and goal investing. How do you guys take that off of advisors' plate, that they can be confident, using Betterment's platform?
Yeah, this is something I'm super proud of. So our goals-based platform allows advisors to enter as many or as few financial goals as is relevant for their client's situation. They input some key details about those goals. For example, the time horizon, target amount, how much so I want to buy a house in 5 years and I need $200,000 for a down payment. Or I want to retire at 65 and I need to spend X amount per year to sustain my lifestyle. And based off of that, we will there's a whole bunch of financial planning software that's automated as well, but specifically on the portfolio optimization, we'll take that, run it through our process, and it will spit out a globally diversified, low-cost, index-based portfolio that's going to automatically rebalance, automatically adjust over time, automatically reinvest dividends for you, gives you full transparency into how we go about selecting each asset class, and why we picked a particular ETF for that asset class. That has been super powerful for CPAs. The other side that is complete opposite, depending on your practice or how you're looking at getting into wealth management, is we now allow advisors to also create their own model portfolios using our platform from over 1,500 different ETFs. So that can be a differentiator from your standpoint, if you're trying to stand out from the crowd a little bit more. And then still let all of our automated portfolio management still kick in. But instead of kicking in on the portfolio that our investment team builds, it's on the portfolio that you have built for your team. So you can go either way. Obviously, designing your own portfolios takes a little bit of more upfront work. But once you've done that, all of the automation is still going on behind the scenes. So totally, it's a very flexible platform. And it just totally depends on how you want to incorporate wealth management into your practice.
Yeah. And, we use Betterment. It is a wonderful tool around the financial planning aspect of that because of the goal based. And most of the CPAs we talk to don't want to put their own portfolios in there. But again, we've got Betterment, who has a tremendous amount of brain power and capital that's gone into their allocation. But they also have Goldman Sachs, they have Vanguard, they have those model portfolios that can match perfectly into the goals and appropriately. The other thing that accountants really love is you can put automatic tax loss harvesting in there. So not only are you getting recurring revenue on a solution, investment solution, that I would say is more appropriate than most folks giving advice in the wealth management industry today, but you can have peace of mind as a CPA that tax loss harvesting is happening. You don't have to call up, the advisor and say, you making sure that we're doing our tax loss harvesting before the end of the year. Really, really very, very powerful. We're coming up on the top of the hour. So I just kind of want to quickly go around the horn and say, the question being kind of, where do you see the future being in the next 2 years for the CPA industry? And the one thing that folks really need to take away from this panel. So Seth, I'm going to throw you in the hot seat right now because you wanted some curveballs. So I'm going to put you in there first.
That's totally fine. I can handle them. So yeah, I mean, look, this feeds into what we do on a daily basis. We do a lot of social listening. We do a lot of talking to accounting professionals on a regular basis. We talk to people who are sharing their own thoughts on how to basically handle change in the profession. The big change that's been, getting that drum has been getting beat for, the last I would say, 5 to 10 years or so. This, oh, we got to deal with change, got to deal with change. How I think it's going to change the most in the next couple of years is, I, with at the risk of sounding trite, I'd say, technology is going to become a lot more commonplace. I think that you're also going to have a lot more of people getting comfortable with remote work. It's not this, as Jody had mentioned before, there's going to be no sort of going back. Work in general and is not going to, exclude the CPA profession. As much as, even in small firms, as much as everyone wants to be back in the office and wants to be back together, people are still going to work how they want to work. And with technology, you have the ability to do that and do that more efficiently and, stay connected with your clients. And, I think that that's probably what's going to change the most. People are just going to be a lot more flexible about it, and hopefully, again, with the natural aging out of the profession and professionals in general, I think people are going to be a little bit more like, we don't have to do things the way we've always done them,
Yep.
and that's
Makes sense.
people are going to become a lot more comfortable
Makes
with
sense.
that notion.
Jody, over to you. Where do you see that in 2 years? Where are we going?
So I think, as Seth said, it's technology, and I think the piece that most of the profession doesn't understand is the ability of the technology today. That it's not technology from 10 years ago. That the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all of that stuff is working today, and it allows firms who are utilizing it to jump ahead and do a lot of things more efficient. And what's going to happen is the big are going to get bigger. You can see it in the mergers and acquisitions already. The small are going to stay, and the middle's going to go away. So you're going to have small firms, because some people are always going to want that solo practitioner or that really small firm. But the middle of 7 partners who can't decide which way to go or how to do it, they're just going to go away, because that's the way mergers and acquisitions are happening, and that's the landscape that's happening. And technology is pushing it, venture capital is pushing it, investments in firms. I mean, right now, I think the general firms don't understand the amount of money that's coming into the accounting space that's pushing accounting to be done differently. It's happening in wealth management as well, right? And so that's going to change what firms look like in 5 years. And I don't think today's firm I think the firm in 5 years is going to look very different than the firm does today. And the only way you can adapt to it is to engage with it, get on board with it, take that first step and start moving, because otherwise you're going to get left behind.
Makes sense. Donnie, how about yourself?
I'm going to take a little different tack. I definitely agree with Jody and Seth. Andreas used the word peace of mind several times. And I think it's important for us to remember that part of the reason that we're here as firms is to give our clients that peace of mind, whether it's with the current tax situation, whether it's with the way they're running their business, whether it's looking at the entire portfolio, right? Kind of like what Nick's talking about with Betterment, whether it's the whole picture with the holistic plan. So, all of these, I think firms really need to look at this and realize that this is a great shift in our role from an accounting services provider to a provider of peace of mind, that I don't have to worry about my finances. Everything's being taken care of. Everything's automated the way it needs to be. And I really just don't need to worry. I can just sleep at night and everything's going to take care of itself. And that's the peace of mind that I think us as accountants really need to provide to our clients. And that should be the change that we see in the next 2 years.
Yeah, and shifting over to our partners here that representing those solutions, in addition to kind of what do you see in the next 2 years, what's in your roadmap for your guys' solutions that you're really excited about rolling out? I'll start with you, Kevin, on Holista Plan. You guys have been building like crazy, wonderful different types of solutions that you're doing, but kind of where do you see the next 2 years, and how are you guys going to fit into that?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Donnie. I think he's 100% right. I think what we're going to see is clients, prospects, the public are going to want more of, I'll call it for lack of a better term, a one-stop shop for their financial services needs. I think we're going to see that they're growing tired and don't want to potentially manage 3-4 different relationships on the estate planning side, on the investment management side, on the tax preparer side, than financial planning. So I think the more that advisors and CPAs can bring all of that in under one umbrella, it's going to make them more marketable, and it's going to give the clients and the prospects what they really want, which is one person to talk to about everything in my financial life. So I think that's sort of where we'll probably start to see that trend in 2 years. It's going to take much longer to get there, but I bet we start to see that in 2 years. As far as Holistiplan goes, we're focused on continuing to add and improve the ability for advisors to do more planning without entering data, without spending a lot of time doing the things they don't want to do. So whenever we hear or see that advisors are even taking maybe some Holistiplan info or data and using a spreadsheet to do something else, our ears perk up and say, well, wait a second, maybe we can get you out of the need for that extraneous Excel spreadsheet and build something within the tool that is sharing the data and is populating things for you so that you're entering a lot less data.
Great. Wonderful. Andreas, how about you all at Trust and Will? We saw you now are all 50 states. Where do you guys see the next 2 years going, and how is Trust and Will going to fit into that?
Yeah, good question. So one is actually very early next quarter, we're going to be making a very major release in how a family, once they actually create the documents, what's next. Many people don't understand what I need to do. How do I fund my trust? So that's something we're working on very hard. That's launching very soon. 2-year time period, a lot about what I talked about earlier. How can we create an inheritance portal, if you will, where I can now invite my CPA into my estate planning portal. I can invite my financial advisor, and it's now connected virtually. So that's our vision, something we're working on to make that connection a little bit better.
Wonderful. Super excited about that. Nick, over at Betterment, I mean, you guys are like the NASA out there. Congrats on that giant round you guys just raised. We've definitely benefited from the service and tech you guys are providing, but where do you guys see the next 2 years, and how's Betterment going to fit in there?
Yeah, great question. I'd say the future, the next 2 years, it's going to be remote. Betterment is over 400 employees now. Over half of them are full-time remote, just to give people a sense of like where the industry is going. And from our client perspective, less so from a back-end perspective, I'd say it's personalization. But the only way to do that at scale is with technology. And well, actually, the only way to manage a remote workforce is with technology as well. So I guess that's the underlying theme here. But for example, our socially responsible portfolio that we kicked off has been incredibly popular. And then this morning, literally at 9:30 Eastern time, we launched our innovative tech portfolio that is prioritizing investing in companies such as robotics, nanotech, clean energy, and it's using artificial intelligence to select and weight those particular companies. So that type of personalization, when you're managing a book of business with 300 clients, you can't do that at scale without technology. So we're going to continue to invest in that type of portfolio customization, so that if you're the CPA and you don't want to have to worry about that, building your own portfolios, you don't have to, but we can still allow you to offer that personalization to your end clients.
That's amazing. So I want to thank everyone that has joined us, all the CPA owners. We know you don't have any time. We know that from talking to all of you. So we really appreciate you all coming in. To the panel, I really want to say thank you all for joining. Also, thank you for all the hard work that you do for us, our partner firms, and for our clients. It really is an incredible thing to do. And the last point that I would lead for CPAs, I think we all kind of drove it home here, is don't swallow the ocean, just get started. If us at Wealth Management Forward, you can go to wealthmanagementforward.com, are always available for a free conversation, have a talk about, how you can just kind of get started here. And you've got a lot of assistance. Accountingweb.com has a conference next year. Everyone should go to that. We're super excited about it. And again, Jody, excited about all the things that you're doing, and Kevin and Nick and Andreas, really appreciate it. There's a lot of great, wonderful things coming in the future. And I think that even if accounting firms just start to look at one little solution today, I think it would be a huge success for the talk today. So thank you all. Everyone be very safe, happy holidays. And we're looking forward to getting everybody back on again for another chat soon.
Thanks so much,
Rob.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.